Hi guys, Brendan from TAT here. Today I'm in a PX Ranger with a traction control warning light that's intermittently coming on, and I want to run through freeze frame data in the scan tool and how it's helped me. Okay guys, so I've got a PX Ranger in here today, 2014 4x2, 2.2 litre diesel, fair few Ks, 200,000, but the customer complaint is that it started out not too often, a couple of times over a couple of months, but now it's progressed to the point where it's almost every morning and almost at the same spot. He'll drive along, while it's cold, he'll get a traction stability light come up, quite a clunk, and then it's, he describes it as it's like he's trying to tow some concrete. It gets reduced power mode, I have to assume is what he's talking about there. He'll pull over, turn the car off, start it back up, and all is good for the rest of the day. So not so much about the fix and the repair and that kind of thing. This one, what I want to talk about is the scan tool, and by using different modes, how I was able to at least get a bit of confidence with something like this that's obviously quite intermittent and could be quite difficult. All we've got to go off is the good information that he's given me, and using that along with some of the information we can gather from the scan tool, how it's helped us. Okay, so in the car I've already taken a full fault code scan, and this is the printout of it. So main concern that I initially saw, I went, okay, this doesn't sound like anything the EGR. Let's take a look through the other modules, but really all the other ones are communication codes, which I believe they would be setting, just saying that, okay, there's a problem in the engine system, so I'm going to just acknowledge that I've seen that the engine is having some trouble, and obviously things like traction control may be disabled during those events. So using the snap-on scan tool at the moment, so going through, and I'm just going to bring up the vehicle that we've already got saved there to save a bit of time. Now I'm doing this a bit after the fact, just because I thought it was a good example to show how we can use freeze frame data. So you'll notice the code's going to be different, but the method's the same. So going into the codes, we'll go memory codes. Now what I've done to sort of recreate the situation, because it is such an intermittent event, and during that I cleared the code so I could go and see if it would reset, which it didn't for me on this second drive. So you'll see now I've got an EGR control circuit open, because I've just unplugged the EGR just as a bit of a proof that, with it in this other mode that it actually goes to, it does something different with this code. It'll just put a check engine light that doesn't go reduce power. What I want to show is that you cannot get to freeze frame in this Ford specific section. So sometimes you can click here and there might be a little snowflake up here on the snap-on. Other scan tools will do it different, but no, I do not have any access to freeze frame data here. Whereas if I go back to home and I go into the OBD generic side of my scan tool, which you'll find most professional scan tools are able to get into the manufacturer specific and then the OBD section. Sorry, I know it's quite glary, but these menus are snap-on specific, so they don't matter too much. If you do use a snap-on, you'll know where I'm clicking. But we're going into the OBD2 side of the ECU now, or generic they'll call it sometimes. So lists out these different modes, and so there's a few more if I go down. So that $O is hexadecimal. Don't need to sort of look into why they use the dollar signs and stuff, but mode 2 there, displaying freeze frame data. Some other scan tools will list it out not in the right order, which is a bit annoying, G-Scan particularly, so the modes aren't actually lined up with the correct numbers. Why you would do that, I don't know, but in this case, just to show you that we do have a code there, and sometimes you'll find that the code will not be in OBD. So I'm going to try and get the focus. There you go, there's our EGR sensor. So different explanation for it, but the same numbered fault code. And then it's also got that high-speed CAN one, which is sort of its way of showing what we were, just get it on there, its way of showing what we were seeing before with all of those other CAN related type codes that we're setting. So what we're concerned with is we've got this EGR code there, but I should be able to get into some freeze frame data attached to that now, which I was not able to before. And this actually proved quite helpful for me, because he was saying, it happens when it's cold, it happens it's good for the rest of the day essentially. So I was interested, okay, well, let's go through and have a look at this. And although this one has been recreated, you know, and that's why it's saying time since engine start at 1 second there, so that makes it worse, 1 second. When I first went into this, so it was set time since engine start where the code's set, was about 112 seconds. Okay, well, that's cold. Went down engine coolant temperature, so this one here where it's at, this thing was 41. Initially on the first code, the real one that I got, we were down at about 27 degrees. So accelerator pedal position was down around that 14, which is near nothing on these. That's pretty much what they'll call their closed throttle. And he was saying, you know, generally it was on a D cell. So I'm starting to see all of this and going, holy crap, you know, this EGR solely does sound like it's meeting all of these criteria that he was explaining to me, and had a bit of a look into researching this code. And it seems that they will, when they set this code, they can go into you know, what most people refer to as limp mode. So they'll slam it into third gear, and hence low power as well. So that, you know, you're saying he gets a noise, and you're saying he gets low power. So by using this, it gave me a bit of confidence when I would have sworn that there's no way an EGR code's going to bring on just a traction control light and, you know, by the sound of it, throw it into reduced power. So make sure, if you're not, get in there and look at that freeze frame data whenever you can, guys. And definitely before you clear any codes to go and see if it's going to reset. Out of habit, I'll always check there now, and I'll always press that save button that you can at the top of the Snap-on. You never know if you're going to want to go back there and get it. So always make sure you're taking in as much as you can. We'll go through mode 6 data in another video, but my force of habit, whenever I'm reading a code, I'll go into that mode 2, I'll go into mode 6, and I'll just press save, even if I don't really scroll through everything, just to make sure that I can go back if I ever want to. Now, this is a good example of, you couldn't get to it in the forward section, but you could in OBD2. You generally should always be able to when you've got an OBD code set there. There's often, you know, other codes that you may not be able to see in OBD, so it might just be saying EGR sensor, whereas you go into the forward section, you might have 4 codes there relating to EGR. You might even have like a MAF flow one as well that's to do with EGR, but, you know, the codes are forward specific, so they cannot set in the generic part, so that makes things a little bit difficult. Through to other situations where, you know, your Holdens and Toyotas are usually quite good, where you can access the freeze frame data while you're already in that manufacturer specific section. Toyota will generally give you 3 snapshots for the same code, so 3 bits of freeze frame data happening right one after the other, so you can actually see the events leading up to and after the code. So as far as a crystal ball, it's about as close as you can get to it. And in this case, you know, just to sort of wrap this one up, I will be putting up a repair solution for it. Luckily enough, I was able to drive this thing when it was dead cold, and I was able to see that the EGR valve was not following its desired as well as I would like. It will be getting a new EGR valve. They're not, you know, not too difficult, but they're not the easiest thing to get to. In 200,000 Ks, I'm not going to be chancing, you know, trying to clean this thing out and all that kind of caper. It's just going to get a new EGR valve, and I'm confident with all this data I've put together that we should be on to a fix with it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.